Alabama freshman quarterback Julian Sayin intends to enter the transfer portal per ESPN. News just broke this morning. Literally, I'm scrolling on my phone, laying in bed. A bit of a shocker, but Julian Sayin intends to hit the portal, and Sayin, when he does hit the portal, will be the 10th Alabama player to enter the transfer portal after head coach Nick Saban announced that retirement. So, players have an additional 30-day window to transfer with the coaching change, and we are seeing Alabama players take advantage. Now, Sayin hasn't thrown a pass at Alabama, but it is a big blow to an already decimated roster. In this video, though, we're going to break down where he could land. Leaving Alabama, where is he going to end up? This is what we do here. We're going to figure it all out. We're going to break it down. We're going to speculate wildly. I mean, news just broke literally minutes ago, but this is why you're here. So go ahead, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. If you're not already subscribed, do me a favor and hit subscribe for me, please. Okay, now we're going to get into it. It's a big deal because Julian Sayin was already signed and practicing with Alabama. Remember, he was there for bowl practice, already putting on the uniform. Now, he hasn't played in a game yet, but remember, Sayin just signed, and he was the industry-ranked #1 quarterback in the country and the 5th best player overall. Really good prospect, really good player. Ended up jumping Dylan Raiola for the #1 QB spot. Remember, Raiola entered the cycle as the #1 QB, but Julian Sayin ends the cycle as On3's #1 QB and really the industry's #1 QB. So signed with Alabama. We know that. He already enrolled. We know that. Thought it was the start of a long career in Tuscaloosa, and then Nick Saban announced his retirement. Nick Saban probably didn't tell Julian Sayin that that was going to happen, nor did he need to. But if you're Julian Sayin, you're the #1 quarterback, you're from Carlsbad, California, he didn't really need to go 3,000 miles to play football. He had options all across the country. But if he was going to go 3,000 miles away from home to play football, it would be for Nick Saban. Now, Saban's gone. Sayin gone. Looks like it. Probably going to happen here soon. Like I said, ESPN reported that he intends to hit the portal. That usually happens. I fully expect it to happen. And when it does, we're going to need to figure out where he's going. So the next part of this video, that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it down. I'm going to speculate because remember, this just happened. So anything could happen at this point, but I'm going to break it down for you. So let's start with some usual suspects. I think LSU and Georgia, outside of Alabama, were probably the two teams mentioned with his recruitment the most. Now with LSU, he took 3 unofficial visits during his recruitment, never took an official visit. But in the meantime, Colin Hurley signed with LSU, and now they have the #1 quarterback in the 25 class, Bryce Underwood, committed. Not signed because he doesn't sign for another year, but he's committed, and I just don't see Julian Sayin working out at LSU. I don't think they're going to pursue him because Bryce Underwood, not going to rock the boat there. I just don't see it happening. Now let's talk about Georgia real quick. 2 unofficial visits during his recruitment. Never took an official visit to Georgia either. Really, he only took 1 official visit, and that was to Alabama. So his official visits don't tell us much. Now, but Georgia went in another direction. They got commitments from Ryan Puglisi and Dylan Raiola. And yes, they did lose Dylan Raiola, but look, I talked to some sources. I don't expect Georgia to get involved with Julian Sayin. We'll just put it that way. They went in another direction really before his recruitment got cranked up. So I just don't see them doubling back on Sayin at this point. Now, let's talk about some other teams that make sense, right? USC. That's probably the one that makes the most sense on paper right off the decommitment. Now, USC did not sign a quarterback in 2024. I believe they're one of the only top teams that did not sign a QB out of the high school level in 2024. 2023, they lost Malachi Nelson. He's now at Boise State. Now, going to play for Lincoln Riley has its perks. He's known as the QB developer. But I think most important here with USC is location, right? If this is about location, this is about as close to home as you can get, still playing big-time college football. Now, USC also has some interest in Julian Sayin, right? Like I said, they lose Malachi Nelson. They don't sign a quarterback in 2024, and now it looks like they're about to lose their 2025 quarterback, Juju Lewis, who just announced his reclassification from 26 to 25. But remember, he's from Carrollton, Georgia, another 3,000-mile away commitment. Julian Lewis looking at Georgia. He's looking at Alabama, Clemson. There's a lot of teams in the South that have interest in him, and he could also be going elsewhere. So why not bring in Julian Sayin? Now, USC did bring in UNLV transfer Jaden Mayava, but there's going to be competition anywhere. And I don't think Sayin was necessarily leaving Alabama due to competition, right? He would never made it to Alabama if competition mattered that much. So I think location, I think USC, connecting the dots there makes a lot of sense. Obviously, UCLA would also make sense for the same reasons. Chip Kelly settles in, looks like he'll be there for a while. They lost their 2023 signee Dante Moore to Oregon this offseason. And again, location plays in a factor. West Coast, other teams on the West Coast, I think Oregon maybe. I think Washington is a possibility, but more so USC and UCLA. Now, some teams off the West Coast that could also make sense. I think Ohio State makes sense, and here's why. Now, they lose Kyle McCord to Syracuse. They brought in Will Howard, yes, but remember, they had Dylan Raiola early in the cycle when he was the #1 quarterback in America, the #1 high school quarterback. Dylan Raiola was committed to Ohio State. He then opened up his recruitment, went to Georgia, ultimately signs with Nebraska. Now, in the meantime, Ohio State did sign Air Nolan. Not sure how much that would impact his signing. I mean, he can always hit the portal, so I would keep an eye on Ohio State. I think they're a school of interest. I think they make sense, along with Texas A&M, right? They signed Mike Elko as their new head coach. New head coach comes in. You want to sign a new quarterback. They made a heck of a run at DJ Lagway, who ended up signing with Florida, but they tried. And if there's some financial offers for Sayin, I got to think there will be, then I got to think A&M can hang with anyone when it comes to NIL and financials. Now, Julian Sayin staying in the SEC to play at Texas A&M. If he wants to play in the SEC, he's going to need to make that transfer happen now, because once the spring enrollment starts, he won't be able to get in until summer, and then he won't be allowed to transfer within the SEC. So we have to see how that plays out. Also, location. I mean, hey, you're not at Alabama. You're about halfway home, so if location does matter, Texas is a little bit closer. A&M also still has a lot of weapons on that roster. They made some moves in the portal since the arrival of Mike Elko. Did I mention they also have a lot of money? So we'll see what happens with Texas A&M. They made a serious run at Lagway. If Sayin would have been available then and they knew he would have been on the market, I think they would have made a run at him then. So this is all just speculation. It's wild. Right now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we do expect Julian Sayin to hit the transfer portal. That was reported this morning by ESPN. And what do you guys think? I mean, I told you what I think. Do you agree? Any of those schools that I said, do you think Julian Sayin lands there? Do you think there's a school that I did not mention that Julian Sayin could end up at? Let me know. Comment section below. #1 quarterback, Julian Sayin, leaving Alabama. He's now in the transfer portal. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that content, be sure to subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We have a new page dedicated only to recruiting. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now.